And that sent me.
So in that context, he's talking about his divine, he submits his will to the Father in divinity.
So where does he say this explicitly, not implicitly? This is the problem that we Muslims have. When the Christians...
But at the same time, your Quran as well, like you're obviously got explicit stuff, but at the same time, your Quran
Ask us. Say where in the Quran is your concept of Tawheed? And we'll turn to Qul huwa Allahu ahad, Allahu samad, right?
That's fine, brother, but at the same time, there are some things where are up in the air where you have to interpret or bring understanding to. You cannot say the Quran is... Are you good?
Yeah.
You don't know. You want to learn from me.
Sorry, go on, carry on.
No. You can't say that. Because the Quran shows as well that you need scholars to interpret this, or you need to do dawah. You need to bring understanding.
Not in terms. Okay, please. Not in terms of the foundational concepts, the pillars of Islam.
Okay.
Right. I mean, the first pillar of Islam is the Shahada, right?
Yeah.
La ilaha illallah.
Yeah, sure.
In the Quran, it's full of statements where God clearly says, "Do not worship Jesus. Don't say thalatha. Don't say this. Don't say that." He's just refuting the Christians throughout.
But that's just your. That's because
we don't need the scholars to interpret that.
Yeah, I know. But that's just because the Quran's your criteria. You know, that's how the Quran was written. They were written like
you're missing the argument that you remember what you said.
Yeah.
That you're trying to bring an example from the Quran to mirror the example you're trying to defend from the Bible. That it doesn't need to. You're saying your argument is it doesn't need to explicitly show the concept of God. I'm saying, but it does.
No. Yeah. But
so why are you bringing the Quran for?
No, because you said that. Because I said that there are things where you can interpret, or you have to interpret to actually understand it. And then you said yes, they are. But then the foundational stuff you don't need to interpret. And I'm saying,
and we're talking about God here.
Yeah, exactly. But
so I don't see how your argument relates back to.
I'm going there. Because you're saying this is how God ought to act. This is how He ought to reveal the word. This is how it should be verbatim. The foundation stuff to be explicit. That's not for us to. That's for us to dictate. That's for God to dictate how things came. Did Jesus ever say, by the way, there's a Trinity, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit? He never said it in those words. But even if he didn't, that doesn't invalidate, or negate the point that it does exist, because God didn't decide to do it that way. It feels like you're trying to advocate for how God ought to have done it when God chose to do it this way. He chose, because again, Jesus spoke in parables and stuff like that. So that's how Jesus conveyed the message. It doesn't. Yes,
I'm saying a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
I'm saying that the explicit words of Jesus are showing that he's speaking out against and negating the concept, not verbatim, the concept of the Trinity. He's claiming during his lifetime that only God is the one.
And I answered that question. Remember, I said that.
How did you answer that?
Because I said in that context. Oh, sorry, the one I thought you
I'm talking about John 17:3, right?
When you said I submit my word to God, or
yeah.
Again,
but what about John chapter 17 verse 3? I think that's far more explicit. Which is that this is life eternal, that they may know the only true God and Jesus Christ whom thou hast sent. So Jesus is clearly making a distinction between not him and the Father, but him and God.
Okay, so with that verse, what I would say is, again, Jesus doesn't ever explicitly say that he is not God in that verse. He's simply proclaiming that, because he can still say that God is there, and that he in three persons is one of those people that relate back to God.
But that's enough for us, right?
Huh?
Wouldn't you think that is a very, very powerful verse for the Muslims who are claiming that Jesus cannot be God? And that's all we need.
Yeah, I know, but my brother, like, even if it wasn't, I believe that any religion would take a verse. Even there's even people that are so-called Christians that take verses and try to twist it their own way.
Jehovah's Witnesses, right? Yeah.
Hey, we're not mentioning names. Yeah.
Look at the Quran. When it comes to the concept of God, do we have anything explicit where we say, for instance, God is one, and you can bring a verse which shows that God is not one? That's the argument I'm trying to get you to appreciate.
Those statements weren't contradictory.
And look, Roy, truth should be clear. It shouldn't be obscure. But truth from God.
The truth is clear. Jesus Christ says that I am the way, the truth, and the life.
And we say amen to that, Roy.
Okay.
Because we believe that Jesus, obviously during his time, he came to the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
Yeah.
So Jesus
that wasn't his greatest mission. His greatest mission was to fulfill what needed to be fulfilled on the cross, to die for sinners.
Okay.
So our sins are forgiven. That was his greatest mission.
Okay, but in terms of him being the way, the truth, and the life, nobody come unto the Father but by me.
Yeah,
we say we don't have a problem with that, because that can be interpreted in a way where it's consistent with the previous prophets and messengers. Like Moses, there was no one other than Moses and Aaron.
Then if he says that he is the way, what do you mean? What do you interpret that as when he says he's the way?
I can't reconcile. I'll cut to the chase here. It's getting on a bit.
Yeah, sure.
I cut to the chase here. I can't reconcile Jesus being what Saint Paul, who never met Jesus, who's walking down the road to Damascus, who claims. Sorry?
He did meet Jesus.
Okay, but I'll tell you my problem, right?
Okay.
I appreciate the fact that you believe that he met Jesus.
Well, yeah, the Bible says so.
But no, the book of Acts says so.
Which is the Bible.
Which is the Bible,
okay,
right?
That's what I said.
But the problem I have is as follows. I can't reconcile between the Bible, which seems to be written upon the dictates of a man who never met Jesus. From his own admission in the book of Acts, he says that he was a persecutor of the Christians. He was walking down the road to Damascus. He saw a light, he heard a voice, and apparently this was Jesus telling him to proclaim the new covenant. I can't reconcile that with what Jesus says in the Bible, where he came to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And the following, here's the most important bit.
No, but Jesus also says that he came for the people that were perishing, like the people that were ill. He said that the Pharisees, when they saw him eating with sinners, he said that they said, why are you eating with sinners? Why are you sitting down with sinners? And I'll be very quick. What he said to the Pharisees was that he said that a doctor doesn't come for the people that are righteous, for the people that are well, but for the people that are sick. Many times in the New Testament, Jesus says that he says that we should go and sin no more, that our sins are forgiven. Many times the concept of salvation, of saving, is proclaimed in the Bible. So you can go.
No, I appreciate your point.
Yeah.
My point was, and I was going to add this to qualify what I just said, that irrespective of what's attributed to Jesus, I can't reconcile between what I see to be explicit statements from Jesus regarding his non-divine human nature and what the Quran has come up with, which is that the message of God to his people has to be clear and consistent. The prophets and messengers never understood that the Messiah is going to be a man God, and so what Prophet Muhammad taught is consistent with what all the prophets and messengers taught. Just let me finish. It's consistent with what the prophets and messengers taught, which has to be therefore consistent with what Jesus would have taught, unless we go by what you guys or what we recognize to be the reason why Jesus' message was corrupted, which is Saint Paul. I can't reconcile between the two.
Sure. That's fine, but again, what I'm going to say...
I'll give you the last word.
Okay, can I finish it with a Bible verse so it's like there's a bit more weight to my words? Because you said that... Okay, we'll be very quick.
Oh, no. You married man?
Married?
Yeah.
Do I look that old?
Mate, I'm a married man. I need to get home.
Okay, cool. I'll leave you with this. And then, I'll leave you with this. Okay, so you said that the message of Paul doesn't seem. So was your point that the message of Paul doesn't seem consistent with the other prophets?
No,
and Jesus?
yeah, we know the source behind why Jesus' original message was distorted. Saint Paul, who never met him. So we believe Saint Paul to be the greatest sinner on the earth when he claimed to receive revelation.
So do you believe that Jesus died for our sins? Okay, cool. So this is you said that the prophets, okay. So you're saying that the salvation message doesn't line up with the
no, because
prophets.
we don't agree to original sin.
Okay, cool. Okay, that's fine. But this is Prophet Isaiah talking. Prophet Isaiah is talking. Isaiah 53. Have you heard about that one?
I have, and I know what the Jews say. They say that the Bible has been mistranslated here. The word death is actually in the plural. But yeah, you go ahead. Go ahead.
There's more than just the word.
Go on, bro. Go.
I'll skip a bit.
Don't worry. Just give it.
Okay. Surely he took, this is verse 4. Surely he took up our pain, bore our suffering, yet we consider him punished by God. Stricken and afflicted, he was pierced for our transgressions, crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him. We are all like sheep who have gone astray. Each of us has turned to our own way, but the Lord has laid on him our iniquities. He was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. He was led like a lamb to the slaughter. By oppression and judgment he was taken away. Yet who of his generation possessed it? For he was cut off from the land of the living, assigned the grave with the wicked, with each rich in his death. Though he had no violence, no deceit in his mouth, yet so I won't read on, but I won't read on anyway.
I've got an entire refutation right there. It's in note form. From the Jews, Isaiah 53. They go into the etymology of the language. They show that it couldn't have been a man who came later on. It was during that time. But I'll leave it there.
So
you have the last word, bro.
Okay, brother. What I will say is, it's a bit rich if I bring a source and you just say it's corrupted. and then everything that is against the Quran or doesn't go back to the Quran is corrupt as well.
You did, but I tried to explain it to you, right?
No, I know, but like if I bring a point and you just say it's corrupted, like you said with other points, then it's kind of it goes back in the circle reasoning.
No, I'm going to the evidences. I'm trying my hardest to go to the evidences. I know you Christians appreciate the fact that you had an Old Testament, but I'm saying that there was an entire tradition that the Jews understood, and they never came up with a sniff that the Messiah is going to be divine.
The Jewish people were the ones that crucified Jesus, and if we wanted to get into Judaism, we could.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the Old Testament, not when Jesus was there and them having a bias to try and condemn Jesus. I'm not talking about that.
Yeah, but there's a common theme among the Pharisees that showed that they were proud, that they didn't want to believe that Jesus that came from Nazareth, which was like the boondocks of or like East London, you know what I mean, that he came from Nazareth. They thought he was going to come from I guess from like a much better place and like royal riches and stuff like that.
Just like they saw, like we mentioned about Prophet, right? They went to Medina waiting for the last man to come along according to the and then suddenly he turns up with the Arabs and they're like, you know what?
Yeah, but unfortunately the issue in the cave again, it doesn't line up with how the.
Bro, it's not that big a deal. You just need to reflect.
It is a big of a deal.
Reflect on the fact that there's no logical argument for this.
That is logical, though, bro. If you say that the Bible is there to. The Quran is here to finish the Bible, and then the character in the Bible does not act the same way he ought to act in the Quran.
But look at the character of the Prophet.
That is a
look at the Prophet. Look at the character of the Prophet Muhammad. Look at the evidences that he brought to prove his prophethood. The fact that the Quran claimed certain things, it lived by it. The fact that it prophesied certain things, those prophecies were shown to be true. We have the character of the Prophet Muhammad. I mean,
bro, we could get into the character. It'd be too much. You know what I mean? It'd be too much.
You've been a lovely host, mate. I appreciate your time as well, mate.
Like the thing is, though, brother, the Muslim brothers and sisters, they're very nice. Most of them, anyways. I haven't met a bad one. I have some Muslim friends as well. But, brother, I just wish you guys would come to the truth, brother. And I know it goes back at me as well.
Bro, Jesus said, and you and me. Jesus said.
In the Quran or Bible?
In the Bible.
Okay, sure.
And you and me, we're going to agree to this.
Yeah.
Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. We believe there should be a balance between the soul, the heart, and the mind. Not just love, and no mind. There has to be a balance. That's what we're saying. That's why I think when the Christians come across Muslims, maybe you find it difficult trying to convince us because we hold a balance between our heart and our mind. It has to be rationally logical. Otherwise,
I've given rational as well, though.
Bro, you know what? There's a statement of the Arabs. It says, "O ye who headbutts his head against the mountain, have mercy upon your head, not the mountain." Nice one, mate.
Okay,
bro. Nice one, mate.
Thank you so much.
Bro, listen. Thank you. You too.
How's it going?
Interesting day. That guy was a little bit more open than the others. As soon as little Bob came along, what I usually do is I'll speak to you.
Thomas. He doesn't want to.
All right. I said to him, I'll speak to you if you tell this guy to walk away. And he said he's my brother in Christ. I said that's fine, but I've already told him that I'm not going to engage with him because of his good manners and the way he engages with
That's more than enough.
So he stood there, and then the guy persuaded him to go away. Unbelievable.
No, this is more than enough.